Hello, CP2 class and Dr. Abrahams. Today I'll be talking about who I am as a person, a musician, and a future music educator. My name is Stephen Sloan, and I'm a rising sophomore education major at Westminster Choir College. I was born and raised in Arlington, Virginia, in a family of four, with my mom, Leah, my dad, Tim, my brother, Mick, and my two cats, Oreo and Gracie. I went to middle school at H.P. Woodlawn Secondary Program. I was heavily involved in the school's music and drama departments while I was there. I was in the chamber singers, which are the select group at the school from ninth grade on, and in the school musical all 4 years of high school, playing roles from Bernardo in West Side Story to Officer Lockstock in Urinetown. I'm also an avid ultimate player. I was on the school's team my junior and senior years, and I continue to play with my friends. I play pickup and throw occasionally, and I'm actually trying to get some things going on at Westminster. For those of you who've seen me wearing my Ravens jersey or my Nats jersey around campus, you know I'm a big sports fan. I um I follow the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens, the Washington Nationals, the baseball team, and the Washington Capitals, which is the area hockey team. But really, my team is the football team, the Baltimore Ravens. I've followed them since 2000, and sometimes I get a little bit more emotionally involved with them than I should. Another thing that I love to do is cook. It's one of my stress relievers at school. I love trying to make new dishes, sweet or savory, dessert, appetizer, entree, anything, and then share it with my friends and people around Seabrook and just get feedback, see what they think, what can I improve, and just talk about anything, just enjoy being with one another. I'm also obviously a big fan of music of any kind, anything from classical, from like Giuseppe Verdi, who's my favorite composer, to more indie stuff like Andrew Bird, to mainstream alternative like Coldplay, Radiohead, things like that, and just about everywhere in between. And I'm also sort of following that part of Westminster's songwriting club, Writer's Block, where I perform some of my own original work and listen to some of the fantastically talented people we have at Westminster. That moves really well into who I am as a musician because, first and foremost, I believe that one can and should try as hard as they can to be a musician well versed in all aspects of their art. That can be composition and performance, or historical or personal connection to a piece, or even classical and popular music. In my work, I focus mostly on classical training, be it music theory or composition or performance, but I also try and honor that part of me that loves popular music and likes to write it and likes to listen to it and likes to perform it. And I try to work on that as well. I haven't studied any instruments, although I play a little bit of piano and I have some formal training on it. But I've really spent my life working on myself as a choral and solo vocalist. And as a choral singer, I've been very fortunate. I've sung things from the Renaissance era, such as Sicut Cervus by Palestrina, or Victoria's O Magnum Mysterium, all the way up to the modern era with composers like Whitaker's Sleep or Lauridsen's Sure on This Shining Night. And I've also been really fortunate enough to sing a lot of great works, such as Fauré's Requiem, Verdi's Requiem, Bach's Mass in B minor, among others. And I consider myself very lucky to have had those kind of opportunities so young. In terms of my solo singing, I'm currently studying with Guy Rothfuss at Westminster, and before then studied with Elizabeth Klugel and Samuel Petamber here in Arlington. And I'm very excited to start French and German rep in the fall because that was sort of what I sang all through high school, and so going back to that's going to be a lot of fun for me. In terms of my philosophy towards performing as a musician, I believe that one's performance has to be influenced by a number of factors: personal connection to the piece, the historical context of the piece, and the composer's original intent for the piece, to name a few. Because I believe that in order to give a full, connectable, believable performance, the singer or the player needs to not only be connected to be prepared for the musical aspect and the technical aspect of the performance, but they also need to be historically and emotionally prepared because that's what makes a truly great performance. The combination of the two is what I believe makes truly great performance, and that's how I approach my performing. I try and go in with all of those prepared well. For me as a future educator, music has always been a huge part of my life. I've sung since I could talk, and I've sung in choirs since elementary school. And I never really thought of it as a career, though, until I had a great experience at a summer camp in between my 8th grade and ninth grade years. I went to a camp that was put on by a local semi-professional choir, and it was basically a 1 week intensive workshop where we did intense music theory training. We did a lot of music history, and we also did an in-depth study of Giuseppe Verdi, whose Requiem we were performing. And I loved every minute of it. It was a fantastic week. But it wasn't until Friday that I really had the turning point sort of moment, if you will. And we were on stage singing the Libera Me movement, which is the very last movement of the Verdi Requiem. And I can still point out on the score to this day the point where all of a sudden I was overcome by a huge wave of emotion, and ranging from joy to sadness to anger to fear and everywhere in between. And I was so moved that I almost started crying on stage. But it was so strong that I walked off the stage that night and I said to myself, that's what I want to do. I want to share that experience with other people and help other people to have that experience that I did. So from that day on, I've worked as hard as I can to become a music educator. And because of that, as a music educator, I want to provide a place where students can grow not only musically, which is obviously the first and foremost aspect of a music educator's calling, is to help train their students as musicians and expose them to music and things like that. But I also believe that I want to create a place where students can grow emotionally and as individuals, because I believe that as a music educator, I have a very unique opportunity to connect with a student emotionally through a very powerful conduit, and that's music, and to channel their emotions through that and to help them learn how to do that and how to deal with the feelings that they have, I believe is a vital part of my job as a music educator, because that helps them grow as people and as emotional human beings rather than just as musicians. One thing that I'll work to do as a music educator is to provide the students with the historical and compositorial context of the piece which they're performing. And I say compositorial, I mean the composer's original intent and ideas behind the piece as much as I can. And this is because I believe that as the director, I need to give my students as many opportunities to connect to a piece as possible, because then they can connect to the piece and sing it so that the audience can connect and they can communicate. I believe that the point of musical performance is communication with the audience. And without connection, there is no communication. So I believe that the students each need to connect to the piece in their own way, be it religious or musical or personal or historical, and they really need to get the piece inside of them and emotionally involve themselves with the piece. And the great paradox I believe that I'm faced with as a music educator is the fact that music is simultaneously so personal and choral music is so community based, because each student is going to connect to the piece in a different way, but it's up to the director to ensure that those all come together as one cohesive whole. Otherwise, you have 20 interpretations going on at one time, and it's just confusion. The audience doesn't know who to connect to. And so taking all those ideas and having them work together to form one greater interpretation is very important, and one of the things that I'll work very hard to create as a future music educator. Well, that's who I am as a person, a musician, and a future music educator. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great summer.